Hello, I'm Delegate Lisa Zukoff. I represent the 4th District of West Virginia, all of Marshall County, and part of Ohio County. Thank you for being with us today. We're here to talk about several issues that are near and dear to our heart. Basically, we're really concerned about the lack of transparency in the West Virginia legislature. And I'm going to speak on it on the House side, and then my colleague, Senator Lindsay, is going to speak to it on the Senate side. Ironically, I just came from a public hearing, the first one to be held this year, this session, in the Judiciary Committee. And kudos to the chairman of the Judiciary Committee for being the first one to allow public hearing this year. But that's the only case that we've had so far. I've been in meetings from the beginning of session where folks have asked for public hearings on specific issues and they've been denied. I've also been in meetings where folks have had guests there to speak on specific bills, and they were turned down. It just appalls me that we are going through this at the legislature. We've also, on the Democrat House side, asked for the Speaker, all of us sent a letter asking for additional transparency. We want to, since we're only meeting in two committee meetings spaces this year, the House floor and the government organization room, that the government organization room be available so that we could video the meetings, because we already have that capability on House floor. We thought, since people can't be here today, they can't be here this year because of COVID, and everybody needs to be safe, that the least we could do is to show those hearings to the public, for the public who normally can be here and attend. Unlike the Senate, the House doesn't have committee meetings that are videotaped. So you can listen to us, but if you don't know who we are speaking, we don't announce that. It's a little more difficult unless you're really good at recognizing all of our voices to know who those folks are. So we've really been upset about that. The other thing that's been happening is that the movement of the bills, talking about transparency. Most of the time, you have the committee references on bills go to at least two major committees in the House or the Senate. And in that case, you have half of the legislature that has seen the bill prior to it getting to the floor. Not the case this year. Many, many bills are being run super quickly, and they're being run without a second reference. We've had several bills be pulled on the floor because questions that were asked can't be answered, and the fact that additional information is needed. Had this process taken place as normal, where it goes to the committee screening process, this probably wouldn't have happened. So we just wanted to bring these issues to you. And to me, transparency is about trust. We already know that in the world today, people don't trust their government. They're skeptical. They really don't. We have this huge partisan divide. We believe that it's important for West Virginians to have access to their state government. That's not happening. And I believe they're using COVID-19 as an excuse to keep that from happening. So I really think that trust is vitally important in the public realm. That's what trust is about, transparency, and we're really lacking this year. So I'm going to turn it over now to my Senate colleague, Senator Lindsay.
Thank you, Delegate Zukoff. Good morning. Transparency does have everything to do with trust. I'll give you an example of how quick things are going this year. 92% of the Senate bills this year are single committee reference. 92%, that's the highest it's ever been. And we're talking about a majority that's been in power now for over 5 years, and it's become less and less transparent with every session. This year, Senate Bill 295, the broadband bill, was passed through the Senate on a single committee reference and is now in the House. And it wasn't until after the bill passed that I recognized, for example, that the committee substitute from the governor makes certain information non-FOIAble, which is something that if 295 had gone through the normal process of at least two committees, something that I would have been aware of, and most of my colleagues would have been aware of as well. And like I said from the outset, transparency has always been an issue with the Republicans in this legislature. Here recently, the governor has admitted that the right to work law, getting rid of right to work and getting rid of the prevailing wage has not added one job to West Virginia, has not added one individual to our population. If you recall, when those measures passed, we were promised jobs, we were promised population. That never came to be. And so, again, this continuing problem with transparency that the Republicans have and share is from the moment they took power to the day in the broadband bill of 295. And you can also see it in H. Bill 2012, the charter school bill. Now that bill, an education bill, went through the Education Committee on the House side with single reference to the Education Committee on the Senate side. I can at least say that 2 years ago, when a charter school bill was passed by the Senate, at the very least, the people in control gave us committee on the whole, which allowed us to look at the numbers, look at the fiscal and financial impact. We knew then that bill, the fiscal note, would be $130 million. We don't know today, and we're taking it up for a floor vote on the Senate after it passed the House, what the fiscal note is for HB 2012. What we do know is it could cost as much as $100 million for the virtual schools, a system of education that I thought we figured out over the last year was not the best form of education for our students. And not only is that $100 million something that we at least have an idea of, I bet you a donut to a dollar, not one of those public dollars, not one of those public dollars of the $100 million will stay in this state, because virtual schools are operated by for-profit companies, none of which are here in West Virginia, and are more likely than not be housed in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. So, again, going back and just to wrap up, that I personally think that the majority has taken advantage of the fact that they're of COVID, and you have, and the proof of it is, again, 92% of Senate bills are single committee reference. There is no committee hearing, or at least public hearing on the House side like there was in the past. Their comments have been restricted on the House side. So I think what this adds up to be is just, again, the least transparent legislature that I can remember. And I ask you this, it's something that both the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats have been asking since we started this session. How can folks stay in West Virginia if their government's not transparent? How can folks rebuild in West Virginia if their government's not transparent? And how can folks succeed in this state if the very government that they believe and rely on does not give them the facts? Their ideas are so great that they're not willing to disclose to the public the very facts that support them. And that says a lot to their ideas and their issues and their agendas. Thank you. Well, I guess we'll take questions, right? Okay.
I asked people to put questions in the chat, so we're just waiting for them to, if you want to say that again. So
Yes, if you have questions for us, please place them in the chat. I have one thing while we're waiting for those questions. We just want to make sure that you all know what's going on down here in Charleston. We understand that we work for you. We obviously are not part of the supermajority who have taken their supermajority status as a referendum from the people that they can do whatever they want. Is that how you really feel? Do you feel that your voice doesn't matter in Charleston? Because that's the way you're being treated right
Look like there are questions.
Not yet.
Okay.
now. We're still waiting for questions.
Brad McElhaney asks, before the session began, did you all think House meetings would be video streamed?
Did we think they would be video streams? We didn't know if they would or not. When we got down here and learned that the House, that the committees would only meet in government organization and in the Senate, in the House chamber, we know the House chamber's already has video access. So we specifically asked for government organization to be allowed to do videos so that we could be open to the people. It made it much simpler to make it open to the people. We didn't know if it would be done or not, and we have asked for that, but failed to hear anything back from the speaker.
Did you think the ones in the chamber would be streamed?
Yes, yes, we thought that they would be streamed because it just makes sense that the video opportunity is already there. They live stream when we're on the floor. So yes.
And just to follow up on the delegate's point, whether or not there was an expectation, it almost should, I mean, there should be an expectation, but that expectation should be satisfied if for no other reason than everyone knew before they came here that there would be restricted public access. So it's up to the party in power to make certain that people have an opportunity to watch the committee hearings or the committee meetings live stream, or make sure that the capability is possible. I will say on the Senate side, the folks on our side do a very good job of making sure that those committee hearings are video streamed or live streamed, and the public has an opportunity to listen and watch. I would hope, but unfortunately it hasn't happened, that hasn't happened on the House side. Especially given these circumstances. It's not a newsflash that we were going to have restricted access because of COVID during this session.
Another one from McElhaney. What's up with masks? Are people receiving an inch on the rules and taking them on?
Absolutely, from my perspective in the House, Brad. We really feel like you probably saw the interaction in the point of order by Delegate Fluharty and the response from Delegate Gearhart. He sits on the floor the whole time we're in session with a coffee cup in his hand so that he doesn't have to put his mask on. We have other members who sit with the mask on that is made of mesh material that provides no safety measures to everyone around him. Now, if you don't want to wear a mask, you can sit in the gallery and you can be maskless and keep everyone safe. I think it flies in the face of the thousands of West Virginians that have died of COVID, that we don't take this seriously, and that it's actually very selfish that they maybe think of their own personal freedom before they think of the health of others.
Just to add on to that, it blows my mind that anyone would walk around any enclosed building without a mask with all the information and science that we know today. I mean, it's 99% says that wear a mask to reduce your chances of getting COVID and reduce the chances of someone else getting COVID. So not only just a follow-up on what Delegate Zukoff said, it's just it's disrespectful, and it's a real lack of leadership. For example, I hate wearing my seatbelt, but when my children are with me in the car, I wear it because it's being an example to people. So at the very least, the people who've been elected as leaders of their communities, their districts, and their counties, the very least they can do is to be a leader by example and wear a mask.
We have another one from Charles Young, who asks, is there any concern that what's happening violates the Open Meetings Act?
In the spirit, we think that it does. Obviously, it's not written but in the spirit it does. You know, we have sunshine laws in the state of West Virginia for open government, and I think people have the right to expect that. So I think, yes, in the spirit that it does violate the open laws.
And just again to follow up as on what Delegate Zukoff pointed out, if your ideas in legislation are so good, you should be happy and that the press know about it, that everyone have an opportunity to know about it, that everyone have an opportunity to debate it. If someone feels so certain about their ideas and pieces of legislation, that's what should happen. And the press has done as good a job as it can, not being here on campus, but I think everyone would agree that the public would know more if you all were allowed to be here, because so much happens between committee, in the committee, and onto the floor and back and forth. There's just a lack of information in that regard. And again, listen, I feel certain of my issues. I'll talk about them all day as long as someone wants to talk to me about them. They don't. And what you see, and the perfection of that is House Bill 2012, Charter School Bill, which is just, again, Senator Tarr on finance did not put that on his committee. Now think about that. Think about that. The fiscal impact of that bill, the way it impacts every student in our state, every teacher in our state, every county in our state, and they got one reference to education.
to
And it
go,
was his decision not to put it on the finance committee agenda.
that bill's near and dear to my heart as well. And I asked specific questions of the education chair because it didn't go through finance on the House floor, and my questions couldn't be answered. They couldn't tell me whether someone can enroll their child at the end of a school, a school at the end of enroll them in a public school at the end of the school year, or in a summer program, if they would then be eligible for to get funding for their private school the next year. We couldn't answer. That adds thousands of people to the fiscal note that we didn't receive. Ironically, that bill has gotten pulled from the special calendar and put to the House calendar while they're waiting on the financial implications of that bill. So again, if you had vetted the bill properly and not been at a great, rushing these bills through the process, that never would have happened.
Dave Mistich has a question. He says, beyond access to live streams and public hearings, I understand appointments are required to enter the building on official business. Do you have any knowledge or evidence that constituents or lobbyists are being denied meetings with lawmakers?
I do not. I've had somebody come and make an appointment with me. I called the Capitol Police. They came in and had their meeting and then they left. So to my knowledge, they haven't.
No, I think there was may have been an episode or two that was quickly remedied. But as far as I know, that appointment process is working. But again, the very fact that folks have to take the step to make an appointment restricts access, where before they could just walk in on any particular day because their bill or their interest is on the agenda and get in and speak about it and make sure the lawmakers know about it. One thing, for example, just to follow up on that, Dave, is in the years past, you would have these days, AARP Day or Women's Day is today, and you'd have flocks of people going to every senator or delegate's door, knocking on the door and saying, this is why we oppose this bill. This is why we support that bill. That is essential contact for our democracy and the way we do things. That is not happening today. And so you have freshman lawmakers or older lawmakers not have that point of contact and reference that, again, is just essential to how they know what works and what doesn't and their perception of the bill. I know that I don't know everything. I know that I can look at a bill and have a certain perspective, but then when I talk to someone else who knows it backwards and forwards, they can educate me. And that is not happening on these bills. The HB 2012, or Senate Bill 295, that lack of contact is harmful to the body politic and the people of West Virginia.
Rob Nicolini asked another one. He says, kind of a transparency issue. If there's an income tax bill with $1 billion annual ramification, wouldn't lawmakers need some time to consider this? There's 40 days left, right? Is this going to wind up being rushed or worked out in private meetings?
Well, I would say it's going to be rushed because we haven't seen one number, one statistic. We haven't seen an outline of how the proposal is going to backfill West Virginia's budget if those taxes are cut. We've heard from the governor through his conferences like everyone else, but we haven't seen any specifics. So it's really hard when this is such a huge issue in West Virginia. How are we going to fill that bucket per se? How are we going to fill that bucket to make up for the regular services like maintaining our roads, taking care of the promised scholarship, things like that the West Virginia, the budget takes care of? Where's that money going to come from? We have no idea. And you're right, Brad, we're a third through this year's session. That's a huge bill to take up without having any information at this point in the session.
I agree with everything that Delegate Zukoff just said. There's nothing else I can add to that.
That's all the questions that have been asked so far. You want to give it another minute or two? Anything else that's come to you guys would like to say?
No, just thank you for attending and asking questions. And I know you do this already, but make sure you hold these folks, their feet to the fire as best you can. Because again, these bills are running very quickly. There's no doubt about it. There are no public hearings on the House side. And that's a disservice to the people of West Virginia.
And the Judiciary Committee holding that first public hearing today, they're using Zoom to do that. So this is access that we have everywhere through the video system to make the public hearings work. A few little glitches, but what went on, it's over at this point, but they were able to do it. So the technology's there, the will has to be there for us to go forward with public hearings. Thank you all.
Thank you.